We're going to be making a Napoli style tomato sauce. When I say style, I like to put onions in it. So we're using truss tomatoes. Just got some small ones, garlic, chilli, lemon, 3 onions, small onions, and 3 tins of whole peeled Roma tomato. Just start by preparing some of the vegetables. Let's give our tomatoes a wash. Peel our onions. We'll just give these a medium dice. So we've got 3 small brown onions, medium dice. Alright, so we take our tomatoes and just take the cores out. You can peel your tomatoes, but I find that the skin adds flavour to the sauce, and I just prefer to leave the skin on. And I just dice up that skin a bit so you don't notice big chunks of tomato skin in your sauce. Alright, so taking the core out of them, I just take them in half, lay them flat, and then half sideways. A few slices across the top, and then the other side to a dice. Okay, so diced tomatoes in a bowl. So next we want 3 or 4 cloves of garlic. And I just give them a bash with a knife, side of a knife, and that way the peels just come straight off. First I chop the core end of the garlic clove off. just slice them up. I like to chop my garlic with my chili, so I'm just going to slice about half of this large red chili. These are not very hot, so this sauce is not going to be hot, but it will have a slight bite to it. But really the chili just adds beautiful flavour. Alright, now we just chop these together. Okay, and we just have a diced chili and garlic. A couple of the ingredients I forgot to mention is we'll need a bunch of basil, and I like a small amount of fresh flat leaf parsley, and a very small amount of dry herbs. This one's Italian blend. Usually I just use a whole bunch, but this basil's quite a hefty bunch. But we just need to pick the leaves. Alright, so use a lot of that bunch. And we'll just give that a bit of a wash. And this is optional, but I just like a small amount of... Alright, so we've got our onion, chili, garlic, washed herbs, diced tomatoes. I'm going to juice this lemon. I've also got a small sachet of tomato paste, and I'm using an electric pot on high, but use a stove top on medium to high, same thing. This is a Tefal, I think they call it an Instapot. But it's a rice cooker. They're fantastic for stews. Because it's an indirect heat from the bottom, so it's very difficult to burn things in these. Alright, so got that on high. Some olive oil. Good whack, I don't know, 50, 40 mils, 30 mils. Just let that heat up for a moment. While we wait for that to heat up, we'll just juice our lemon. Juice of one lemon. So we'll get our onions in. We just want to soften these. In this pot on high, they're not going to get any colour. And we'll just give our washed herbs a rough chop. Alright, just a rough color good. Alright, so we're just going to fry up these onions on their own for 3 or 4 minutes. And then we'll get the garlic, tomato paste, herbs, and tomatoes and lemon juice. Alright, so these onions have been in here a few minutes now. Just going to get a small amount of salt in there, some pepper, and in with our garlic and chilli. Also get a very small amount of dried herbs, like a quarter of a teaspoon. When I'm cooking a stew, I like to add seasoning in layers. So I've got some salt in for my onions. When the tomatoes go in, some more salt will go in. And then when the tin tomatoes go in, some more salt will go in. And pepper. Alright, now we're going to fry off our herbs with our onions. The flavour in basil is an essential oil, so when you fry it off with your olive oil, that flavour goes into the oil and then permeates the whole dish. This is a beautiful technique for making tomato sauce. Okay, and now we'll go in with about 2 teaspoons of tomato paste. Whenever you're using tomato paste, it's very important to fry it off. You wouldn't want to just dump it in, after all the moisture, all the wet goods have gone in. The onions are starting to turn translucent. No colour on anything. At this stage, I'm going to go in with the juice of 1 lemon. And I'm going to let that come to the boil, which it already has. It's going to boil off some of that acid before I put anything else in. So tomatoes are very acidic, and by adding some acid it enhances that acidity of the tomatoes, and you'll have a beautiful tasting sauce. Just like tomatoes are very high in a natural form of MSG, and I always add a small amount of MSG, which enhances that aspect of it. Okay, in with our tomatoes. And we'll add some salt for them, salt and pepper. I haven't tasted anything yet because I know that we're going to need a whole lot more salt and pepper once the tin tomatoes go in. But this will just help those tomatoes break down and be nice and tasty. Alright, so that's been bubbling away now for a few minutes. We just get our whole peeled Roma tomatoes opened up. Okay, and I just take a knife and just run it a couple of times through that just to get these tomatoes cut in half a little bit. Okay, and they can go straight in. And then for each tin, to not waste the bit that's in there, I fill each tin about 2/3 with water. Okay, so in with our water. Okay, so just put our water in. This is going to simmer. We're going to bring this to the boil and then we'll simmer it for about an hour to an hour and 20 minutes. So you want it to be very loose at this point, but by the time it's done, a lot of that water will have reduced out and we'll have a nice consistency. Right, so at this point, we'll give it a taste. And this is probably 4 litres of sauce, so it will need quite a good season. But we'll just start it off there. Good whack of black pepper and good pinch of quality salt. Alright, we'll wait that to come up to a boil and then turn the flame right down so it's only just bubbling. And then we'll let it bubble for an hour to an hour and 20, coming back and stirring it every 5 to 10 minutes. 10 minutes at the absolute most. Alright, so we've just come up to a light bubble, and in this pot I'm now going to turn the heat down to a medium to low. And I'll come back every 5 to 10 minutes and give it a stir. And then as it reduces down, I'll reduce that temperature down again slightly because we just want it on a light bubble. Alright, no rapid. If it rapid boils, it'll splash out and mess everything up in the kitchen. So just a slow bubble for about an hour, hour and 20. Also at this stage, I will go with a small amount of MSG. And you really only want to use the Japanese brand. Okay, it's far more economical to buy it by the kilo, but these little shakers are really nice. Alright, so we've been bubbling away now for about 50 minutes. And just going to turn this down again now to a low heat. And we've got about 20 minutes left on this now. As I stir it, any big pieces of Roma tomato, I just kind of squish them up against the side of the pot, get them all broken down. We're not going to blend this sauce, and we don't want big chunks of tomato, but they will break, smush up against the side of the pot quite easily. Alright, so we've been boiling for about an hour and 20 minutes, and our sauce has reduced by about a quarter, and we've got a nice consistency. We'll do one final check for seasoning. Pinch more salt. Perfect. Alright, we'll just let that let's turn the power off and let that cool down. Alright, well, that's finished. So I always love to keep a batch of tomato sauce in the freezer because there's so many things you can do. If you've got a tomato sauce, you can so easily prepare a meal. You can put some veggies in the oven, grill some halloumi and a little tomato sauce, or boil some pasta with some tomato sauce and some parmesan, a little side salad. Easy meal. Tonight, I've got some veggies in the oven. I've got a few plates that I've just heated up. If you're going to serve a hot meal, serve it on a hot plate. And I've got some lentil patties, which we'll make at another time. So I've got some roast potatoes, Dutch creams, pumpkin, and some beetroot. And if you want to make your veggies taste amazing, put a little butter on them. In my house, we just go halves in a lentil patty. With a bit of tomato sauce. And some steamed green beans. we'll just do a little butter on them as well. Some salt and pepper for the green beans. And that's a beautiful vegetarian dinner.